I feel bad for this attorney. I think she got thrown into the case about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't know what happened there. At first, I thought she was replacing Morrissey, and I was like, oh no, we need Morrissey. Opening statements. Okay, so what do we got so far? 8:30 to 5 p.m. is their court days. The jury only has half an hour lunch. No, the judge is like, no, 1 hour lunch. Dude, could you imagine having only a half an hour lunch and you're sitting there from 8:30 to 5? They're allowed to take notes. No transcripts, though. They will not be getting any transcripts. But can they get a readback on certain parts of the transcripts? They're allowed to ask questions. However, if they want to submit their question, they have to submit it while the witness is still on the stand. And then the judge, she'll make it's up to her discretion whether or not she's going to read the questions to have to be answered.
When someone plays make-believe with a real gun in a real-life workplace, and while playing make-believe with that gun violates the cardinal rules of firearm safety, people's lives are endangered, and someone could be killed. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what this case is about.
Who's talking?
It's simple, straightforward. The evidence will show that someone who played make-believe with a real gun and violated the cardinal rules of firearm safety is the defendant, Alexander Baldwin. You will hear over the course of the next few days that in the fall of 2021, a movie called Rust began filming at the Bonanza Creek Ranch just south of Santa Fe in Santa Fe County. You will learn that this movie was a Western with a lot of gun action. And while it was a movie set, it was a real-life workplace for many people. But you will hear this workplace was on a tight budget.
Ooh, they upped her audio. Yes, thank you.
And you will learn that some of the people who were hired to work at this workplace were very inexperienced. And one of those was the armorer, a very young woman named Hannah Gutierrez Reed. You will hear testimony from crew members who worked on the set, who will tell you that to them, Ms. Gutierrez's inexperience was obvious.
Yeah, the judge and the prosecutor, they have cute little faces.
You will also learn that this workplace has some talented people. And one of those was the director of photography, a vibrant 42-year-old rising star named Helena Hutchins. You will also learn that the director of this film was Joel Souza, another talented individual who cares deeply for his projects. The evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that like in many workplaces, there are people who act in a reckless manner and place other individuals in danger and act without due regard for the safety of others. That, you will hear, was the defendant, Alexander Baldwin, the lead actor on this film. You will learn that this movie began filming on or about October 6, 2021. But the defendant did not arrive on set to begin working until about October 13. And you will learn that prior to arriving on the set to work, he requested to be assigned the biggest gun available. So he was assigned this revolver, a replica of an 1873 single-action revolver manufactured by Pieta Firearms in Italy. You will hear from Alessandro Pieta, who will tell you he manufactured this gun. And he will tell you he manufactured it in 2015. And he will explain the quality control measures that Pieta Firearms follows in order to ensure that firearms that are manufactured by Pieta Firearms don't have any problems or issues. Mr. Pieta will tell you that this firearm he himself manufactured. And that when Pieta sent it to EMF, which is the company that distributes firearms for Pieta Firearms in the United States, this gun was in perfect working condition. You will hear from Justin Neal, who is a representative of EMF, a company out of California that has historically been known to provide firearms to the movie industry. Mr. Neal will tell you that when EMF received this firearm in 2017, it was in perfect working order. And in fact, when EMF had this firearm, it was subjected to numerous quality control inspections because it was used as a show gun at gun shows. The evidence will show that in September of 2021, an individual by the name of Seth Kenny was contacted by the folks with Rust Production. They asked Mr. Kenny if he would be able to provide some firearms for the filming, for use during the filming of Rust. You will learn that Mr. Kenny owns PDQ Firearm and Prop. It's a duly licensed firearms dealership. Mr. Kenny then contacted EMF and ordered several single-action replica revolvers. And in September, or on September 29, 2021, Mr. Kenny purchased this gun. And you will hear that Mr. Kenny received it from EMF, and it was in perfect working order. The only thing that Mr. Kenny did to this gun was to insert the firing pin, because since it was a show gun, it didn't have a firing pin. But you'll learn that that's a very easy step. All he had to do was just insert the pin, and that's it. And then Mr. Kenny had the firearms, this one and some other firearms, transferred to the set of Rust at the Bonanza Creek Ranch. And on October 13, 2021, the defendant was supposed to have a training session with this gun and this young armorer.
This is what I want to know more
about. But you will see that during this training session, the defendant had somebody or a couple of people filming him while he's running around shooting this gun. You will learn, ladies and gentlemen, or you'll hear during this trial the use of the words prop gun. And you'll learn a prop gun is this real gun. It's not a toy. It's not made of rubber. It's a real gun. You will also see evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that during the days before that fateful October 21st day, the defendant handled this firearm multiple occasions. You will see video footage of the defendant firing this firearm, working perfectly fine. But you'll see evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that each time the defendant handled this firearm, he did not do a safety check with that inexperienced armorer. And you'll hear that the reason he didn't do a safety check is because he didn't want to offend her.
What?
The evidence you will see will paint...
Baldwin's shaking his head. I want to know, maybe there's other witnesses that will testify to that. They don't want to offend her.
It's a real-life picture of a real-life workplace where this defendant mishandled this gun. You will see him using this gun as a pointer to point at people, to point at things. You will see him cock the hammer when he's not supposed to cock the hammer. You will see him put his finger on the trigger when his finger's not supposed to be on the trigger. You will hear about numerous breaches of firearm safety with this defendant and this use of this firearm. And the evidence will show that on the morning of October 21st, 2021,
I wonder how many roles has Alec Baldwin played as where he had to handle a gun? TV shows, movies.
The camera crew walked off set. And you will learn that one of the reasons that camera crew walked out is because they were concerned over safety breaches with the use of firearms. The evidence will show that the morning of October 21st started out a couple of hours behind. They filmed some scenes at this church on the Bonanza Creek Ranch, and you will see that one of those scenes required the defendant to pull out his gun. This was in the morning. Pull out his gun, and you'll hear the director tell him, pull it out and hold it. And the first time, you'll see evidence the defendant does what the director tells him. But you will hear the director tell you that many times the defendant would do his own thing. So then the director in the morning asked him, okay, do it again, just like you did now. The defendant pulls out the gun, but this time he cocks the hammer. The evidence will show they then broke for lunch. And around 1:30 or so, they came back to this church to do what's called a blocking. The evidence will show that Ms. Hutchins wanted to do a blocking for an insert. And you will learn what a blocking is, just working out the details of the moves of the actor. It wasn't even a rehearsal. You will hear from one of the witnesses who walked into the church and saw the defendant kind of playing with his gun. And then you will see evidence, or hear evidence, that Ms. Hutchins and Mr. Souza were talking to the defendant about doing this insert. And the insert was just supposed to be from here to here, and it was supposed to be of the defendant just slowly taking his gun out of his holster, and just holding it at an angle. The evidence will show that someone asked the armorer to bring the defendant's gun to him. And she did. She brought it into the church, showed it to David Halls, who you will learn was the first assistant director. The gun was empty.
David Halls.
Ms. Gutierrez then handed the gun to the defendant. But then you will hear that Ms. Gutierrez was given the gun back, and she took it and loaded it with dummy rounds. And what you will learn is that dummy rounds are inert rounds. They look like real rounds, but they are very easy to tell that they are not because they'll rattle. Ms. Gutierrez then went back to the church, showed the revolver to the first assistant director very fast. They only checked about 3 rounds, very quick. And they missed 1 round. You will learn that one of the rounds in that revolver was a real round. And the evidence will show that Ms. Gutierrez then handed the gun to the defendant. And what you will learn is that once again, the defendant failed to do a gun check or a safety check with this armorer. So he takes the firearm, puts it in his holster. Then Ms. Hutchins and Mr. Souza were doing this blocking. And the evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that the defendant, again, did his own thing. You will hear from an individual by the name of Kent Jorgensen. Mr. Jorgensen will tell you that he's been involved in drafting and revising movie set safety rules. You will learn that these movie set safety rules require actors, like the defendant, to treat every firearm as though it's loaded, to never point a firearm at another person, and to never put your finger on the trigger unless you're prepared to shoot or to destroy whatever's in front of you. The evidence will show that on October 21st, 2021, after that lunch break, the defendant once again violated those set safety rules. And during this blocking, the director had instructed him to just slowly take out that gun and just hold it at an angle. But you will see that the defendant takes it out quickly the first time, points it. And you will hear witness testimony who will tell you the first time he does it, his finger is on or around the trigger. He does it again, takes it out very fast, points it. And once again, you will hear testimony that his finger was on or around the trigger. And the evidence will show that that third and fatal time, he takes it out once again, fast, hammer's cocked, he cocks the hammer, points it straight at Ms. Hutchins, and fires that gun, sending that live bullet right into Ms. Hutchins' body. You will learn that this bullet was a .45 caliber round that entered Ms. Hutchins' body right underneath her right underarm. It perforated her right lung. It traveled through her spine, lacerating her spinal cord, and then it exited on the left side of her back. That bullet then went into Joel Souza's right shoulder, and it came to rest in his back, from where doctors removed it once he was transported to St. Vincent's Hospital here in Santa Fe. You will learn, ladies and gentlemen, that Ms. Hutchins did not have the same fate. You will see the aftermath of the shooting, and you will see medics frantically working to save Ms. Hutchins, to stabilize her, to transport her, to airlift her to UNM Hospital. But the damage from that bullet was too much. Ms. Hutchins succumbed to her injuries and bled to death. The evidence will show that meanwhile, after the shooting, the defendant began to claim he didn't pull the trigger. The evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that's not possible. You will hear from Mr. Pieta himself, who will tell you that gun will not discharge without a pull of the trigger. You will hear from firearms experts who will tell you that gun will not discharge without a pull of that trigger. The evidence will show that law enforcement officials arrived at the scene on October 21st after the shooting and immediately took this gun into their custody. Then later, they asked the FBI for assistance in processing this gun for forensics and examination. You will learn that the gun and some ammunition that was taken from the set and from PDQ arms were sent to the FBI for analysis. You will learn that the gun first went to the DNA section of the lab, where a DNA analyst found the defendant's DNA on this gun. And then the gun was transferred to the firearms and tool mark section of the lab, where a firearms examiner examined this gun very carefully and closely. Bryce Ziegler, who is the firearms examiner for the FBI, will tell you that when he received this firearm, he first examined it. He didn't see any defects, didn't see any modifications. He tried and he checked the hammer in the 3 different positions, cocking positions. He checked the quarter cock position, fine. Checked the half cock position, fine. Checked the full cock position, fine. And when he held it in the full cock position, you will hear that hammer held until he pulled the trigger. You will also hear that Mr. Ziegler test fired this gun 12 different times. And each time, that gun fired as it was designed. Each time, when he pulled that trigger, it fired. And he will tell you that not once did this gun malfunction or discharge on its own. Now, the evidence will show that because the defendant had been claiming that he didn't pull the trigger, Mr. Ziegler suggested one last test to the Sheriff's Department. Mr. Ziegler told the Sheriff's Department that he could do what's called an accidental discharge test. he obtained authorization to do this test. And you will hear that he left that test for last because that test could potentially damage the gun. Mr. Ziegler went forward after he received this authorization and conducted the accidental discharge test. And you will hear, ladies and gentlemen, that during that test, a couple of the internal components of this firearm damaged. You will hear that the trigger sear and the full cock hammer notch were damaged during the accidental discharge testing. The evidence will show, however, that before this accidental discharge testing by the FBI, this gun functioned and worked perfectly fine. You'll see the video footage of the multiple occasions during which the defendant used this firearm on the set, and each time he fired it, it was working just fine. And in fact, you'll hear evidence that the defendant himself admitted in December of 2021 that this gun didn't have any mechanical problems. You will hear from the two of the country's leading experts on firearms forensics, Michael Haig and Lucian Haig. And they will tell you that they examined the revolver and the damaged pieces extensively. They will tell you that the damage to the full cock trigger notch is consistent with the accidental discharge testing that was conducted by the FBI. Lucian Haig will tell you that in August of 2023, he examined the trigger sear, the other piece, and that when he looked at it initially with the naked eye, there was nothing wrong with it. He couldn't see anything. But then he put it under the microscope, and he noticed some kind of rough microscopic diagonal lines on the surface of the trigger sear. And since at the time he did not know how Mr. Ziegler had conducted the accidental discharge test, he opined that these very small microscopic lines were likely not caused by the FBI accidental discharge testing, but he could not exclude that as the source of those lines. Then a few weeks ago, Mr. Haig will tell you that he spoke with Mr. Ziegler, and he learned how Mr. Ziegler had conducted the accidental discharge test. Mr. Ziegler explained that he affixed that firearm onto a fixed platform and then struck the firearm on 6 different planes with a rubber mallet. And Mr. Ziegler explained to Mr. Haig that he had not affixed the mallet to another fixed device. Instead, he did it freehand.
There's a fly in here. Oh.
Mr. Haig will tell you, with his 50-plus years of experience as a firearms forensics expert, he opined or concluded that those very tiny microscopic diagonal lines on the surface of the trigger sear were likely caused by the FBI's accidental discharge test. The evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that regardless of how those tiny microscopic lines got on that trigger sear, these firearms experts will tell you that those would not affect the functionality of this firearm. At the end of this case, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to conclude and be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that on October 21st, 2021, that gun the defendant had asked to be assigned worked perfectly fine as it was designed, and that the fatal and one of the main problems that afternoon of October 21st was that the defendant didn't do a gun safety check with that inexperienced armorer. He pointed the gun at another human being, cocked the hammer, and pulled that trigger in reckless disregard for Ms. Hutchins' safety. And you will be convinced that the only true and just verdict in this case, so that true justice can be served, is a verdict of guilty to involuntary manslaughter. Thank you.
That was a good opening statement. She was really easy to follow. She didn't throw in a bunch of names there to confuse you. Anytime a name was thrown in, she would go in and further explain more about that person, that witness, what they're going to say, X, Y, and Z. I think she did a really good job with opening. Very easy to follow. Now, in the Hannah Reid trial, the direction was a little bit different than Alec Baldwin's, because Alec Baldwin's saying, well, I didn't pull the trigger. So that's the reason why they have to get all these experts like the maker of Piet to come in and talk about, oh no, the gun was working. Or people who are experts on like guns in general to talk about, oh, you know, this gun was working properly. You know, we did the check, X, Y, and Z and all that stuff. So there was that. Also, let's see. Oh, remember, so when during that day on the set, when Hannah was supposed to check the gun, the bullets, Hannah made a motion saying that it seems like she picked them all up at the same time and shook them instead of shaking each bullet individually, the dummy rounds, because if you shake the dummy rounds, they're supposed to have little beads in there, right? And so it seems like she might have picked up like a bunch of them at the same time and shook them all, but you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to do it one by one by one by one. There is contention on whether or not Hannah handed the gun to Baldwin or David Halls. I think in the Hannah Reid trial, David Halls said that Hannah was the one that handed the gun to Alec Baldwin. But apparently Alec Baldwin made like two different statements. Initially, I think he said that Dave Halls handed him the gun, but then later on in an interview, he said that it was Hannah that handed him the gun. That was one thing. And yeah, I mean, those are my notes. That's pretty much about it. I think she did a really good job.
This was an unspeakable. May I proceed? Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. This was an unspeakable tragedy, but Alec Baldwin committed no crime. He was an actor acting, playing the role of Harlan Rust. An actor playing a character can act in ways that are lethal, that just aren't lethal on a movie set. These cardinal rules, they're not cardinal rules on a movie set. And I don't have to tell you much more about this because you've all seen gunfights in movies. And the reason that can happen is because safety is ensured before the actor. On this movie set, there were people responsible for ensuring the safety of the set and the firearm. Those people failed in their duties, but Alec Baldwin committed no crime. The most critical issue in this case is how a real bullet got on a movie set. The evidence will show that real bullets are never supposed to be on movie sets. Movie sets use dummies and blanks. Movie sets use dummies, fake inert bullets that look like real bullets, they don't go bang, for when you want a close-up of the gun. You can't tell them apart from live bullets by looking at them, which is why live bullets can be nowhere near a movie set. And if the director wants a shot of the gun going, bang, poof, there's blanks that they can use. And those blanks look nothing like real bullets. And they are used for those shooting scenes. And, they'll play these videos that they described of Alec's, firearm in the movie going bang, poof. And people are conditioned to seeing people firing weapons and thinking, that's a dangerous act, that's a dangerous act. And they will play those videos and give you that image to try to tarnish him in your eyes. But that's not what happened here. On this set, there was a real bullet, something that should never be on a movie set, something which has nothing to do with making a movie. And you will hear no evidence, not one word, that Alec Baldwin had anything to do with that real bullet being brought onto that set. The second critical issue in this case is, why did a real bullet get loaded into a prop movie gun? It is undisputed that the bullet was loaded into the gun by the armorer, the person on set whose responsibility it was to ensure the gun was safe. And so picture that moment of the armorer placing a live bullet into that firearm. You hear the prosecutor say, he did this, or he performed in a certain way. He picked out the biggest gun as his prop. It's to tarnish him in your eyes. You will hear no evidence whatsoever. No evidence that anything Mr. Baldwin did, that something he did in that moment, that horrible moment when she put that bullet in that gun, none of it had anything to do with Alec Baldwin. And finally, the first assistant director's job the head of safety, Dave Halls, checks it before it goes to the actor. And he will tell you he made a tragic mistake. He failed to detect a live bullet. And Alec Baldwin had nothing to do with that either. So all this evidence that the prosecutor just outlined, all of it, has nothing to do with these critical issues. Nothing. Which leads us to this. The evidence will show that on a movie set, safety has to occur before the gun is placed in the actor's hands. In this case, this unique case on a movie set, the prop gun was placed in Mr. Baldwin's hands and cold gun was announced, meaning it had been checked and double-checked by those responsible to ensure the gun was safe. It was just a prop. They all thought it was just a prop and could do no harm.
Hello.
The actor's job is to act, to rehearse, to choreograph his moves, to memorize his lines. He's Harlan Rust. He's an outlaw running for his life, who in the incident in question, he's pulling a six-shooter to try to defend himself. That's why the gun has to be safe before it gets into the actor's hands. His mind is somewhere else, in the being of another, a century away, an outlaw. He must be able to take that weapon and use it as the person he's acting would. To wave it, to point it, to pull the trigger like actors do, in ways that would be lethal in the real world, but are not lethal on a movie set. And I'm going to show you that scene now before lunch. And if we could just play action.
I'm gonna go find some help.
I don't need no damn help.
You're gonna die if I don't.
He's wounded and on the run. Can play again? Continue.
Harlan Rust. Need you stand up nice and slow. Toss any weapons you have.
He's on the church pew, bleeding, his hand gripping the revolver. He would defend himself against the men in the movie. Play.
One more. You good? Ready? Harlan Rust. Did you get up nice and slow, tossing the weapons you have?
Well, how close can I get? Right there?
Joe, you want me to wait to give you that line till he lands?
Okay.
Till camera lands?
Yeah.
Yep.
Set this one.
Yeah.
Draw your gun and look up and point your gun, okay?
Okay, which way? Camera right or left?
This side for now.
So camera left for now.
I'll stand right here for you, Alec.
So whip it out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me get this all greased. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Okay, ready? Ready.
And set. Ready and action.
Harlan Rust.
Do one more just like that. You got one more? Yeah.
Ready, ready?
They want him to do it again. There's no danger. They want him to do it again.
And set. Ready and action.
Harlan Rust. Nice.
It's a scene similar to scenes we've all seen in movies and television, performed by thousands of actors. And the scene that continues after lunch is the same scene, it's just not unfortunately captured on videotape. And the scene they envisioned and acted out, that prop gun was positioned in the afternoon so close to the camera that you could see inside, that you could feel it. You could feel that it was loaded, and it was loaded, of course, with dummies. Dummies to make it look like a real gun. But this one time, one of those dummies was a real bullet. The real bullet was not known to anyone in that church. Amongst the actors, directors, and crew in the scene, everyone was doing exactly how they go about their business every day on a movie, not as if some lethal element had been included in the environment. You will see creativity and movement and everyone talking and vibrant. No one had any idea that this venomous, toxic element had been inserted into this magic they were creating. But it did. It entered that place. It killed an amazing person. It wounded another. And it changed lives forever. And so to find out what happened on that movie set, you need to do something that the prosecutors could never do. You have to step back and remember what they were doing on a movie set. What were Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer, Joel Souza, the director, and Alec Baldwin, the actor, doing on Bonanza Creek Ranch? You know, movies and magic have always been closely associated. The first people that made movies were magicians. And this imagination that happens in movies, you know, King Kong, he can stand above a city, and Superman can fly, horses and snakes and gun battles. For this to all work, for cinematography, what Helena did to work, for acting to work, you have to be so close to the barrier of real and imagined that the viewer feels that they're there, that it's real. The viewer can't see strings from the stuntman. The stuntman must leap. The snake must hiss. And guns happen in movies all over this country for many decades. Bang, bang. You've all seen it. Guns have been an element of theater and film and television since the earliest of times. Depictions of war and combat, Spartacus, it stirs audiences because it feels real. Later films, Platoon, Apocalypse Now, they showed the unvarnished realities of war. This ranch in Santa Fe, it had been the scene to many gunfights and movie scenes, well before Alec was even born. Laramie, Butch and the Sundance Kid, and these westerns.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yeah, I'm like, where are we going with this?
The evidence will show that guns are in movies because movies are about people's lives and guns are in people's lives. So let's talk about the evidence and how the lethal bullet got there. How did this happen and how did it unfold? The evidence will be the following. Everybody on a movie set has a role. The armorer armors, the director directs, the actor acts. They work in harmony, but they have a division of responsibility. Safety being important has the first assistant director, whose name is Dave Halls, above the armorer and sort of the safety of the set. And on that day in question, the cast and the creative directors and crew in the church, it's a fake church. Their actors are not in their normal clothes. It's costumes. There's debris falling from the ceiling. It's fake debris. And they yell out cold gun. And that is an important term you're going to learn in this case. It means that the gun is cold. No one need worry. But even that requires a little bit more explanation. Cold gun doesn't mean no live bullets. There are for sure 100% no live bullets on movie sets. That's unimaginable. Cold means you don't even have the fake blank poof in it. You don't need to worry even about eye gear or earplugs for that fake bang. It means it's empty, inert, cosmetic, can do no harm. Cold guns can't hurt people. It's impossible. Literally impossible for a cold gun to hurt somebody. You could hurt you more by dropping it on your foot. And that's why these artists are carrying on in their art. Cold gun, all clear to go. And the armorer on this set hands a prop gun to Alec, like she had done times before, like people have done with him in movies for a generation. And he's there. He's in the movie set church with his movie set gear and his holster, and he takes his movie set gun. And he's deeply focused in that moment on his character. The artists, the crew members, they're moving around him. Again, no eye gear or earplugs, nothing to protect against. They carry on. They practice. They rehearse. They take a lunch break. Some folks leave, some don't. They continue the scene. Dave Halls, the head of safety, is actually practicing the movement so they can frame. They can frame the footage that will happen after lunch. And the prop cold gun comes back. The prop cold gun comes back, cold gun. They call it again. Same gun, again, safe. The first assistant director, Dave Halls, head of safety for the entire film, a man with decades of experience, comes and takes the additional step and inspects the gun. Verifies again, cold gun. Everyone relax. Go back to focus on the making of a movie. There's nothing in the gun that can hurt anybody. And Alex sits on that pew. And the creative directors, the crew, they're moving around him, in front of him. And Harlan Rust, he begins, like the prosecutor told you, rehearsing, acting. This is a completely mundane, uneventful, routine act on a movie set. On a movie set. And so everybody carries on. Nobody fathomed, imagined, foresaw any possible danger. They moved around Alec as he practiced his draw. As the prosecutor put it, working out the details of the move and the actor. He does it again, does it in a different way. Nobody bats an eye. And they will tell you that the investigation revealed that Baldwin was practicing drawing and pointing the weapon of the scene with guidance and instruction from Helena Hutchins and Joel Souza. The gun goes off. Everybody's shocked. Alec is startled. He immediately says, I didn't mean to shoot the gun. I didn't pull the trigger. Immediately. What the hell just happened? They collectively exclaim. Shock turns to panic. 911 is called.
Out at Bonanza Creek Ranch right now. We've had 2 people shot on a movie set accidentally.
You said someone was shot?
2 people accidentally with gunshots out on a movie set, Bonanza Creek Ranch.
Okay,
Send it.
I'll connect you with medical dispatcher. Don't hang up. Santa Fe Fire and EMS, what's the location of the emergency?
Bonanza Creek Ranch has had 2 people accidentally shot on a movie set by a prop gun. We need help immediately. Okay? This fucking AG that yelled at me at lunch because asking about revisions, this motherfucker. Did you see him lean over my table and yell at me? He's got disgusted guns. He's responsible for what happened in the
now, Mimi?
No. I'm a script supervisor.
How many people were injured?
2 that I know of. I was sitting, we were rehearsing, and it went off, and I ran out.
Accidentally shot on a movie set with a prop gun. The fucking AD, it was his responsibility. Not a word about Alec Baldwin. While they're en route, police, EMS, the cast and crew are outside, trying to figure out what happened, frantic, talking to those responsible for the prop and its safety. The armorer is yelling, sorry. Hall's the first assistant director is panicked. The prop master, Sarah Zachary, I don't know exactly where she is at that point, but they check the gun feverishly. They take the ammo out of the gun. They look at it, what the heck happened. They go back to the prop cart that houses the ammo. They're touching the gun and manipulating the gun, emptying it. They go and move some stuff off the prop cart, trying to figure it out. Sarah Zachary, the head of props, will tell you she threw some stuff out. And eventually, of course, EMS and police arrive pretty soon thereafter. And Helena Hutchins and Joel Souza, the director, are transported to the hospital where Helena tragically passes away. And I'm not going to be asking questions about her condition after she was wounded or the medical interventions that followed. Her injuries, the efforts to revive her, are not in dispute in this case. The evidence will be there. The prosecutor may present some of these emotionally charged images, but we're not going to be asking questions about that, and it's not an issue in dispute in this case. You jurors are allowed to ask yourselves whether or not that should be the focus or the focus should be the evidence. So police enter the scene. They have lapel cameras. Thank God they have lapel cameras. You want to see what happens? The evidence will show you can play the videotape. Want to see if they take the right gun? Play the videotape. Want to make sure what the people said or did they're remembering correctly? Play the videotape. And so they immediately recover the prop gun and they secure it. That's off to the side. And the reason that you preserve things in the moment is so that you know what existed in the moment, the evidence in the moment, the people and the witnesses and what they said in the moment. These folks, the members of Rust, they'd never been through anything like this before. That is why what they originally said matters so much in this case. If you remember anything I say today as the evidence proceeds, remember that. Look at the evidence of what the people of Rust said and did that day. Life changes, memories change, there are human motivations, internal pressure, external pressure. That's why preservation is so important. So the police continue. In terms of the prop cart and the prop ammo that's on the cart, it's manipulated, altered, kind of messy. And at this accidental shooting on a movie set, the police begin to make some mistakes. No one had ever investigated a prop gun on a movie set before. They recover the prop gun, but they don't wear gloves. They don't have the prop cart inside the crime scene. Someone moves it onto the crime scene. People start touching it and showing, okay, this is a dummy, this is a blank. And then they make another mistake that matters in this case with some more significance, which is that they don't secure the prop truck that houses the cart. See, that cart that they roll off comes from a truck where all of the ammunition, all of the firearms are, and that's where they're stored. They don't secure the prop truck for several days. And then the prop house that supplies the truck, that supplies the cart, they don't secure for over a month. A lot of mistakes. They had never investigated a case in a movie set. But they had the prop gun. That was key. And so they needed to figure out where the live bullet came from. They had the shell casing, Starline brass. That's the sort of make. You'll hear that phrase, Starline brass. And the police were right to focus on that. That was the lethal element. And so they work outward. Makes good enough sense. Folks around the ammo and the gun to be interviewed at the precinct. The armorer at the precinct. She loaded the live bullet. Halls, head of safety, he double-checked. And Alec walks up to the police. You'll see this early today. And he says, I'm here, whatever you want to do, whatever you need me to do, just tell me where to go. And Sarah Zachary, the prop master who threw out the stuff at the cart, they missed her that night to bring to the precinct. But the rest of them at the precinct. And thankfully, we have the lapel cameras.
And then they cleared the gun outside after his request, and I witnessed them clear it and saw the bullets.
Okay. So the one was
The one that was missing, the one that fired, we don't know, but all the other ones were proper.
I can pause this. I can turn this off. Move on. That was just a quick snapshot of the scene.
Let's approach, John. This is Ms. Johnson.
They consented to the exhibit. The remaining witnesses from inside the church are interviewed on the scene. They're interviewed with lapel cameras. They're interviewed by the lead detective, Detective Cano. And those witnesses, some of them will come in here and testify. And not a single one of them will tell you anything different than what I'm about to tell you about the evidence. The gun was double-checked, verified it was a cold gun, not an actor's responsibility to check. Safety was ensured before. Alec was doing his practicing, his rehearsing, his movements. People manipulate and point guns on movie sets. The gun went off during the rehearsal. No one saw him intentionally pull the trigger. It was obviously a tragic accident, but Alec committed no homicide. Alec took the gun from those charged with its safety. He did not tamper with it. He did not load it himself. He did not leave it unattended. It completed his costume and his character. It was an actor handling a prop and integrating it into the character of Harlan Rust. There was a dedicated professional there, off camera, whose sole sacred responsibility was that prop safety. And Dave Halls, the head of safety, was there by her side. Everyone relied on that. And it was tragic that they let them down. He was just acting as he has done for generations, and it was the safety apparatus that failed them all. So law enforcement continues. They need to find the live bullet. That was the lethal element. So they, led by Detective Cano, execute a search warrant on the church. And that's what law enforcement does. They immediately go to a judge. They say, this is what we need to do. They go into the church urgently before anything can be altered. They're confirming it was an accident, not a crime in the church. They search for guns and ammunition, videos and photos. There was no further answer in the church. They had the prop gun. They had all those witnesses secured. Their statements are clear. Alec had committed no crime, but the bullet was a mystery. And so they focus on the bullet, the critical, lethal bullet, and how did it enter the movie set. So they had the prop cart, and then they go do the warrant on the prop truck. And so at that point, and I'm going to put up a photo so that you can see who some of these individuals are, they're trying to figure out when they go to the truck, what is the source of the lethal bullet. And so they execute a warrant on the truck approximately a week later. The Seth Kenny that you heard about in the prosecutor's opening, the supplier for the set, he's there. Sarah Zachary, the prop master, she's there. And they walk through what's inside of the prop truck with law enforcement. But there's no answer to the lethal bullet. And you know, this case then takes on, all this pressure. The media begins swirling. Where is the lethal bullet? How did it get on that movie set? And what about that actor, Alec Baldwin, who had nothing to do with why the bullet got on the movie set? And so police and prosecutors, they work hand in hand, meeting after meeting, trying to find the lethal bullet. Meeting with Seth Kenny, meeting with Sarah Zachary, the prop master, the supplier. Where is it? And about a month after the incident, Sarah Zachary finally sits down with law enforcement to answer some questions. And she explains to them that she threw away some stuff. She disposed of some stuff. And the prosecutors and police keep meeting, swirling media, and then at that point, they go to the last step, right? We've done the cart, we've gone to the truck, we met with Sarah Zachary, and they go execute a search warrant on, as the prosecutor told you, PDQ, the prop house. And again, Seth Kenny's there to greet them, let them in, and they don't find the lethal bullet. They never did. They never did. And as things roll into police and prosecutors, cell phones and photos and forensics, looking for this shiny object, they found another shiny object. Instead of trying to find the source of the lethal bullet, they focused on Mr. Baldwin. But Mr. Baldwin was like every other actor. He goes bang bang in movies. He's told when guns are cold or not. He rehearses and acts as his character. Safety proceeds before the actor. Once the actor has the prop gun, he can handle it however a person he's acting as would. A properly cleared gun can't hurt anybody. And so they told you about some of the things that Alex said in the statements that they will take or picked out a few lines from. But he won't tell you anything different, that he took a gun loaded and cleared by the armor and the AD. He made motions with the gun as he was rehearsing. He didn't intentionally pull the trigger. The gun just went off. And he does say, I didn't have a problem with the gun before. And this idea, that they said that he didn't want to check because he would offend them, in this moment, he's been doing this for 40 years, the evidence will show. And he has habits, and there are also SAG guidelines that tell actors what to do and what not to do. And the SAG guidelines don't tell actors to check the gun. You will see them. That's not the actor's role. And so I guess the point that they're trying to make is that why in this specific moment he doesn't break his habit of 40 years and check it differently and sort of insult them this one time. If he had done that and started playing with the gun in that way, they'd be saying, arrogant actor, why is he doing that? So they will play these statements, Alec's statements. You're going to hear a man in shock and grief. A father, an artist, worried about his family. You hear he's, on one of the calls, he's going to meet with the decedent's family, the Hutchins family, and he's upset about that. He will talk to law enforcement. He will call them. He doesn't need a lawyer. He didn't commit a crime. He will call them and offer to meet and speak over and over again. And ask anyone in the acting world. Actors know. Actors rely on armorers and point guns and shoot guns. The Armorers Act, what they did, is clear and proven. The head of safety, you will learn, took responsibility for his verification failure. But Alec committed no homicide. So law enforcement didn't have a homicide case against Alec Baldwin. But they changed the question. You heard the prosecutor tell you about this. Did he pull the trigger? Did he pull the trigger? Did he intentionally pull the trigger? And if he did, of course, that would only make his statement incorrect. Right? That would mean he would have misspoke, been incorrect. And I want to stop for a moment and just tell you, because you're going to hear a lot of testimony, expert testimony like the prosecutor told you, about the gun functioning imperfectly. Did he let the hammer down when he cocked it? Did he hit the trigger? Did he, in a calculated manner, as the prosecutor made a motion, fire the gun like that. And when this issue is discussed, it's easy to sort of pull yourself into courtroom land and away from a movie set. On a movie set, you're allowed to pull the trigger. So even if he intentionally pulled the trigger like the prosecutor just demonstrated, that doesn't make him guilty of homicide. He did not know or have any reason to know that gun was loaded with a live bullet. That's the key. That live bullet is the key. That is the lethal element. But again, as the prosecutor told you, if they could prove that he intentionally pulled the trigger and he was imperfect, imprecise, wrong with what he said, then maybe you take that and you say he's lying. And if he's a liar, he committed homicide. And so what they do is they take the prop gun. They're blinded by the shine. They're blinded by trying to disprove Alec. They take it and they order a destructive test on the firearm. They order the FBI to take a test that they know will destroy the firearm. It's a pointless, unnecessary test where they blindly try to make this big case by taking a mallet and smashing the firearm. At the time that they did that, they knew that Alec had adamantly maintained, that he was manipulating the hammer and the gun just went off. That the witnesses said it went off out of nowhere. That there are these accidental discharges that happen on the set. That guns have issues in the real world. That this gun had a hair trigger. And the owner's manual of this specific gun actually says that if you load it with a live round, or any round, in the chamber, in that last position, and you drop it like you see a cowboy in a movie, this type of old cowboy gun can accidentally go off. I don't remember hearing anything about that. The evidence will show that. So rather than trying to answer the question of what happened, they proceed with the destructive test. They eliminate the one item that could prove what Alex said and believed. They didn't offer him a chance to test the gun. They didn't take the gun apart before they broke it and destroyed it and look at its inner workings. They didn't turn on their videotape. They just destroyed it. Can't ever be tested in the same condition it was.
I don't know. He said something that got Alec Baldwin inching up a little bit. It seems like he might have gotten something wrong.
Before they broke it, they didn't offer him a chance to test the gun. They didn't take the gun apart before they broke it and destroyed it and look at its inner workings. They didn't turn on their videotape. They just destroyed it. Can't ever be tested in the same condition it was in that day. Won't ever allow Alec to show his truth. And the destruction of this gun that you will hear in this evidence is symbolic of this entire case. Because the officers will tell you at that point, they weren't really investigating anymore. They were trying to disprove Alec, to get Alec, to have this day. And so after the destruction of the firearm,
Alec's like, hey, yo, buddy, I got this. I'll finish up the opening statements.
They hired some expert witnesses you heard about to pick up the pieces, so to speak. And the state retained Lucian Haig, an expert with over half a century of experience. And he will come into court and he will tell you he's never seen anything like this in his entire career. They conducted a pointless test, a test that would lead to inevitable destruction of the firearm. There were other correct tests that they could have done to prove whether or not it could have accidentally discharged. None of the experts can test the gun in the condition it was in on the day in question. Why? Not because of something that Alec Baldwin or the...
I don't think Lucian Haig was the one who tested the gun. I thought it was Ziegler. That Ziegler was the one who tested the gun. And then at some point, the gun was destroyed because he wanted to check for an accidental discharge test. I thought Lucian was the one who just took the gun and then looked at it under a microscope.
The crew members of Russ did. They were all clear. The gun just went off. But because of something that law enforcement did. And they deprived him of that opportunity. However, Lucian Haig will tell you that in his analysis, he did find modification that he thought likely pre-existed the FBI testing.
But he changed his mind after talking to the person who tested the gun.
And what that modification means and how it impacted the gun is hard to perfectly know, of course. But it was a modification on an important part.
Why does Baldwin look so stressed right now? Look at his face. I feel like he looks so stressed. I'm going to take a screen grab of this.
It's hard to perfectly know, of course, but it was a modification on an important part, the critical part of the firearm, and it was important enough for them to put into a report and to write a new opinion about. They felt this revelation had to be sent to prosecutors, and they maintained that position, that this modification was a matter of import, for almost a year. And then a few weeks ago, before trial, they just took it back. They just took it back. You will get to see the circumstances of that take back. How far they would go for the shiny object. They never solved the question of the lethal bullet. They destroyed the gun, and all they were left with is Alec Baldwin and the movie they intend to put on. But because they never solved the lethal bullet, they eliminated the prop gun. There will not be one witness, not one shred of evidence in this trial that Alec knew or should have known.
Cameraman's like, you know what? Forget the lawyer that's talking to us. Let's just zoom in into Alec Baldwin.
The gun was loaded with a live round. So they can't prove. They can't prove their high-profile homicide case. So
that's his lawyer. That's his attorney that's talking right now.
They will proceed to then, here and now, tell you about other things, other evidence that you will hear that has nothing to do with what happened in the church on October 21st. That the movie set as a whole was improper or anything. That they hired the wrong armorer, I think I heard in opening. The evidence will show that the armorer was hired by somebody else, trained by somebody else.
I think Gabrielle Pecco was the one who was in charge of hiring. She testified in the other trial.
Had done gun scenes on Rust with somebody else before Alec even got there. She was the daughter and the apprentice of the most famous and well-respected armorer in Hollywood. And she had just left serving, being an armorer for Nicolas Cage on another Western. Then they'll come in and they'll say, but what about the movie guidelines? You heard
They should have hit up Nick Cage and be like, hey, Nick Cage, how did Hannah do? That was her first time working as an armorer. How did she do? Did they not crawl for references and ask about, okay, well, let's talk about your previous employer and see how you did? Like, is that not a thing? Or you can do it maybe unofficially, right? Just be like, hey, you know, I heard you're working on like the movie set with Nick Cage. Like, how was Hannah? Was she doing good? What happened?
About Mr. Jorgensen and the movie guidelines. That one of the protocols wasn't followed. Or there was a set safety issue about something unrelated to this. Like these movie guidelines on
Wait, hold on a second. Something's going on here.
Then they'll come in and they'll say, but what about the movie guidelines? And well-respected armorer in Hollywood. And she had just left serving, being an armorer for Nicolas Cage on another Western. Then they'll come in and they'll say, but what about the movie guidelines? You heard about Mr. Jorgensen and the movie guidelines. That one of the protocols wasn't followed. Or there was a set safety issue about something unrelated to this. Like these movie guidelines on a set or the things of Navy SEALs and NASA. The guidelines were followed. They followed the safety guidelines. Actors don't check the weapons. Safety is ensured by dedicated personnel. So they will say, you know, but there had been accidental discharges on the set, that guns had fired accidentally prior. Not related to Alec, by the way. You know, but again, that's the people we looked at. Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's fault, Sarah Zachary's fault perhaps, Dave Hall's fault, faults, workplace issues. Some of them will end up, and you will hear the witnesses in this case, many of them have brought civil lawsuits. You know, and you'll hear that, you know, in those civil lawsuits, they're presenting evidence to try to meet a burden, not a criminal beyond a reasonable doubt homicide trial burden, but they're going to try to prove their cases in civil courts. And that's where faults and accidents are, at worst, 99% worked out. Not here. But you'll hear these members of the Rust crew come in here. They'll try to make sense of this for you. Some of them have sued. Some of them are in grief. Some of them are in grief and have sued. And part of this grief they feel, that everybody feels, is understandable. And what they will do is they will tell you, you know, if only we had had a second armorer. One of them will say, if only Dave Halls had checked better. If only the camera hadn't been right there and Ms. Hutchins wasn't leaning over the camera. If only I myself did this. If only Alec did that. This is natural, their testimony. It's part of the human condition. It's part of grief.
Objection, Your Honor.
None of them
So you can just keep talking?
knew.
Yes.
This guy's so over it.
I was saying.
Objection. This
As I
opening
was saying,
statement's too long.
The witnesses, in their grief, will look for reasons to try to make sense of this tragedy. But again, none of them knew or should have known about the lethal bullet either. No one had any idea that it was on that set or in that gun. In that world, they were all in it together. And you will hear that none of this other stuff has anything to do with those two critical questions we started with.
Look at the judge. Everyone's body language in the corner. If you just take 1 second, judge is like, okay. Lady in the green's like, is this about to be over soon? Hilary looks like she's like kind of tired. Everyone's just like looking around like, oh man, is this gonna be over soon? Baldwin looks like he wants to say something because maybe there are some things that he's got wrong. I don't know what's going on here. Oh, I want to screen grab this really quick. It's kind of funny. Okay, sorry.
Why
I'm
there was a live
distracted.
bullet on set, why the armorer placed it in the gun, and of course, why the head of safety failed to detect it. None of it speaks to whether Alec knew or should have known those things. He didn't. No one on that set did. It was not foreseeable. You will hear that word from the witnesses and from eventually the instructions. Foreseeable. This was anything other than foreseeable. And they must prove beyond any and all reasonable doubt that this was foreseeable. Total indifference to human life, that death might occur. He's an actor. He's an actor. But here we are at a homicide trial. And so they will pull witnesses, and witnesses will be crossing.
No, I don't think he was trying to blame Helena and the way that she was positioned. I think he was just trying to explore, oh, there's so many what ifs. What if this? What if that? What if that? But then him like kind of bringing it up in defense opening statement, some people could interpret it as, oh, are you trying to blame Helena? Excuse me. But I don't think he was trying to do that.
Examined, they will push themselves to the edge of truth and beyond. You know, these things about, Alec didn't notice this or Alec
Wait, I thought he was going to end with that. He's just an actor, an actor. I thought he was going to end with that.
didn't notice that. I want to make sure that you're clear on something that the evidence will show. He had been filming on that set for a handful of days. The evidence will show he had just gotten there. It's not as if he had been there for months and months and noticed things and failed things. He had just gotten there. You don't notice every little thing when you start at a new place and when you're in the character of Harlan Rust. But they will push forward and they will have gaps in the evidence as well. Don't expect you to be hearing and for them to call the first AD head of safety. I don't know if you'll be hearing from the lead detective, Cannell, who investigated this case. The lead detective. Or the sergeant that supervised him, Sergeant Zook. I don't think you'll hear from Mr. Schilling, who was the lead investigator for the prosecutors. And so as you hear this, you jurors can assess about that gap of evidence. And there's one thing that I can tell you you will not hear also. You will not hear from an actor or an expert in acting. And so they will play the videotapes of Alec Baldwin, the actor, acting. They will show you perhaps over and over again him in shooting scenes. Bad Alec shooting a gun the wrong way in a movie scene. They will try to get you to picture that and forget that this was a movie set in the first place. And you will see actors in a Western acting. And your mind might go to your favorite gun scene in your favorite movie. You may picture actors and actresses doing exactly what you see here. The other actors in Rust doing the same thing that Mr. Baldwin was doing. But when you come back from that moment, remember, this is a homicide trial. And you will see soon that the reason they play those videos of him over and over is because they don't have any evidence of actual homicide. And you will learn the truth. Not a day goes by when we don't wish Alec had saved her life. But never, the witnesses will tell you, in the history, is something that an actor has done. Intercepted a live bullet from a prop gun. No actor in history. No one could have imagined or expected an actor to do that. So just remember that truth. So when they cry out justice, justice is truth. This was an unspeakable tragedy. Alec Baldwin committed no crime. Thank you.
All right, thank you. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our morning bathroom break. So please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court.
Oh, boy.
And follow what Mr. Bing tells you to do.
How long was that opening statement?
We'll see back here about 20 of. All right. Thank you.
All rise for the jury.
Oh, boy. Okay, so his opening statement could have just been straight to the point, very concise, but I think the reason why he made it a lot longer than it should have been, maybe because he thought it would look bad in comparison to the state's opening statement. I think he should have just focused on it was the armor's responsibility, it was her duties. He's playing the role, and, you know, maybe throw in some, oh, Alec Baldwin he really was concerned for people's safety. He would attend all these safety meetings. He would, you know, make sure he would do the training sessions with the armorer. But maybe the reason why that wasn't mentioned is maybe because he didn't do that. Because I think that would have been really important. Like, he needs to go up there and show, like, hey, Alec Baldwin did his role as an actor. He did care about people's safety, and he made sure that he, you know, was safe around people when he had the gun in his hand. But it was mostly just him saying, oh, you know, he's just an actor. An actor's just focusing on acting. He's just playing a role. Everyone else is responsible because they are the ones who have to make sure that, like, you know, the gun is safe. For example, the armor has to make sure. The first AD, Dave Halls, has to make sure. Alec Baldwin was just an actor. He was just waving around the gun. But I think what happens... I don't know. I think what fails in his opening statement is that, yes, Alec Baldwin is just the actor. Yes, there are other people who are supposed to ensure safety, but that doesn't mean Alec Baldwin should just, you know, willy-nilly be pointing the gun at people, right? For me, it seems like if there is a gun in a scene, it seems like everyone knows how that gun is going to be handled. So, for example, okay, Alec Baldwin, you know, we're going to have your hand on the trigger. And it's like, okay, guys, his hand is going to be on the trigger. You know, everyone knows that's going to happen. Or like, hey, Alec Baldwin, no, you're going to be cocking the gun here.
Hey there, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to watch.
It kind of just seems like that wasn't a process that was done on the movie set. It just seems like, okay, guys, we have a gun here. The gun is cold. We're good. But in terms of what's going to happen with that gun, like whether or not there's going to be a hand on the trigger or whether or not the gun's going to be cocked, it seems like that wasn't something that was maybe discussed ahead of time with everyone. So that could have been the issue. Oh boy. And my mind definitely wandered a lot in that opening statement. Because I think the state opening statement, she was straight to the point. She went down in very good order. And anytime she brought up names, she would expand more on who these people were, what they did, what their roles were. With the defense opening statement, it was kind of just like, oh, he's just an actor. You know, there's other people that are responsible, but actors are supposed to just be acting. He didn't know. He wasn't paying attention. He was only there for a couple of days. He wasn't there for a couple of months. He wasn't able to see all the small details and issues that were wrong with the set. He was just acting. I don't know. I just really wanted to hear from the defense saying that, like, you know, Alec Baldwin did the safety stuff. He did the training sessions. He's been acting in movies for 40 years and X amount of it was, you know, him handling guns and like he's never had issues before. I don't know. It was just mostly just him repeating himself over and over and over again. And I think people were just starting to kind of just wander a little bit. Maybe that's the reason why he was playing videos and 911 calls, because he was hoping that would bring people in and have their attention. But I felt like I felt like it was unnecessary. Like the 911 call, I don't think we really need to listen to that. The lapel footages, I don't think we needed that as well. Alec Baldwin, when he was like filming the movie scene, I don't think that we really needed that as well. So I think he really should just focus on the responsibility was with the armor, with the first AD. It was their fault. Alec Baldwin didn't know there was a live round, and that's about it. But, you know, like I said, maybe the reason why the defense didn't bring up Alec Baldwin attending all these safety meetings and, you know, reading the safety bulletin and all this stuff is because maybe he didn't do that, which is might not be a good look. Sorry, there's a fly in here. I need to kill him. I don't know. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to hear from the defense's opening statement? But it's still really early, but I still think them charging him with manslaughter, it seems like an overcharge to me. It seems like they wanted to make an example out of him because he was an actor. You're a famous person. We're in New Mexico. We're not going to let you get away with it. So I don't know. I just don't know. Because Hannah, for sure, I think manslaughter, yes. for sure the armorer. Alec Baldwin, not really quite sure. But, we'll see what happens with the trial. Maybe he went long because he wanted the jury to forget what they heard in the prosecution's opening statement. No, that wouldn't work. 911 was to plant the idea of accident versus the negligence. I mean, because I think during the trial, they will get to hear the 911 call anyway. I don't know. I think like opening statements, just keep it straight to the point, stick to the facts that help your client and not too much rambling, Don't loop yourself. Like the guy kept repeating himself, oh, Alec's just an actor. An actor's just an actor. Like he kept repeating that. It's just like, okay, we get it. I personally don't think Alec is responsible, but producer Alec is. He should have hired better. Well, the thing is, producer Alex wasn't responsible for hiring either. It seems like to me the role of the producer was just him just getting money and then providing money to, getting investments and, maybe using some of his own money to fund the movie project. Because there were how many total producers were there? There was like 6 or 7 producers, I think. If anything, oh shit, there he is. Come here. Kill this fly. Where'd he go? Yeah, I'm ready. Because I wonder if he even knew who Hannah Reid was. If he knew that Hannah Reid is someone that was inexperienced, that, she was a daughter of Stel Reid, who's been in the armor role for 50 plus years, and he's highly known. I just wonder if he even knew who Hannah Reid was. It was Gabrielle Pickle, I think, who's the line producer. I think she was the one that was in charge of hiring her, and then there was some other guy who was involved in the financing or something like that, and the pay, the expense. I think it was them two that were more involved with who they were hiring and how much they were going to pay. Was it Gabrielle Pickle? Yeah, because I don't know if Alec was the one who was involved in hiring. But I mean, remember how we heard from other people, other witnesses in the Hannah Reid case, how hiring an armorer seems to be a very informal process. You kind of just get hired by word of mouth, right? There's no sort of training or certification that you need to have. They hired her because she's the daughter of Stel Reid. He's huge in the movie industry. He was an armorer on many movies for many years. Well, it was 30, 40, 50 plus years. Get the fly? I don't know where it went. It comes back. I'm definitely murdering the shit out of it. I didn't hear it's so violent when it comes to flies. Yes. Shiro doesn't like flies. It scares him. Okay, I'm just going to chill right here. But, I think they had to go after Alec Baldwin. I think if New Mexico didn't go after Alec Baldwin, people would be like, oh, well, Alec Baldwin's getting special treatment because he's an actor. He's the famous guy. So we'll see if he gets the conviction. I don't know. I have my doubts. Do you think the state would be more successful if they said that Alec Baldwin was pressuring Hannah and created the bad situation? Has he been the producer / boss? See, I don't know if he's really considered producer / boss. I feel like producer is just a guy who just gets the funding. I don't know. I think if anything, people didn't respect or give him respect because he was, the producer. I think they gave him the respect and gave him the power because, this is Alec Baldwin. He's a seasoned actor. He's been acting for X amount of years. So I think if anything, I don't think anyone really cared that he was a producer. It was just, it was just Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin is the big time actor. He's the lead actor. He's been in many movies. I think he's considered A-list. So I think that's the reason why people kind of just let Alec Baldwin do Alec Baldwin things, because he was that big time actor. So Rose, an executive producer, does all the hiring, scripting, casting. See, I don't know if he did all that. I don't know, because it seems like sometimes when you have an actor and then you see in the movie credits, they slap on the producer name. It seems like, this person may have had a big role. I don't know. I think it could vary. I think it could vary from you had a small role as in getting the funding, or maybe you had a large role where you're doing other things where, the hiring, the scripting, all that. I don't know if he did all that. I'm not quite sure. Maybe. But hello. She got a new haircut. Linda began rocking a new hair right there. took shortcuts with the film. It just seems like it was just something that they just did in movie industries. You know, sometimes you have a really low budget that you're working with. And they, you know, they had Hannah on there. And, you know, nepotism. She wasn't just a daughter of nobody, right? She was the daughter of the Thelma Reed. Wait, what is this? Should we watch this? What is this?
On that prop gun and believed it was cold, meaning that it wasn't in danger of firing a live bullet or anything else that would harm anyone. Back in March of this year, however, the movie set armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed was found guilty, yes, guilty of it.
Was that her during sentencing? Oh, God, Hannah Reed. Hi, Oni. How are you doing today? How's it going? You heard he chose New Mexico. Tax breaks would play a greater role for them just securing money for the film. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Is that Aunt Jeanette? Hey, Aunt Jeanette, looking good in polka dots. It was a pretrial order. They can't mention the producer, therefore responsible. Yep. I mean, honestly, I don't think the producer thing was a big deal to me because I feel like him as an actor and his responsibilities as an actor already covered it. Like, you as an actor, you should be the one. Yeah, like, yes, there are people that does all the safety checks and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean you can just do whatever the fuck you want, right? You yourself have to follow safety protocols. And so the state has to show that, like, oh, he didn't do that, right? But, I mean, I feel like whether or not an actor checks a gun, it's probably good practice to have the armorer go over to the actor and then check the gun together, right? And maybe from then on, it's up to the actor if he wants to take further steps to really check the gun. But, I mean, we've heard of other actors on the set who check their own guns. But, I mean, Alec Baldwin, you know, I think he just left it to the Dave Halls, the first AD, and the armorer. I know, right? Why does Rick Fish look like Rick from The Walking Dead? I know, it looks like that. That's what I was thinking, too. Have you seen Alec's face? He has a permanent mean look on his face. Makes him very unapproachable. I think, if anything, it's just more like he's a star actor. No one really wants to approach a star actor, right? Especially if they kind of look unfriendly. What about Split Focus 2 from Dual Roles? I honestly don't know that Alec Baldwin thinks much beyond Alec Baldwin, but a lot of people would have Split Focus if they had two major roles on set. Are you talking about Alec Baldwin or Hannah Reid? Hi, Iris. How are you doing today? Greetings, Captain. What is the latest development? We had opening statements for the Alec Baldwin trial. State, I think, did a really good job. Straight to the point, easy to follow. Defense, all over the place. My mind wandered, and I don't know. His opening statement wasn't the greatest. I think they should have let the other attorney talk. I feel like the other attorney was more charismatic. The bald-headed man. I think way more charismatic and easier to listen to. This guy was just all over the place. But, you know, opening statements are hard. It's hard to go up there and talk in front of everyone. You know how they do, oh gosh, what is it called again? When they play TV shows or advertisements and they get like a group of people to come in and kind of chime in on what they thought about that. What's it called again? A test group or something? A focus group. I feel like they should have done that for his opening statement. Like, okay, let's get like a bunch of people to listen to his opening statements, and then let's make notes on how many people, you know, minds wandered, how many people thought it was a good opening statement. I don't know. I feel like they should have done a focus group with that. Can you do that? And why not? Because you're technically doing this in front of like not just the people of the jury, but all the people that are sitting here watching the live stream. I don't know. That opening statement was a mess in my opinion. Both Hannah and Alec, I didn't understand what the judge didn't allow. The producer asked her for the split focus argument as well. The judge thought it was irrelevant. The judge also said that the state had an expert who was going to talk about Alec's role as a producer. However, she didn't think that he was an expert in that because he himself has never been a producer, even though he has trained producers on like set safety and all that stuff. But he himself, since he wasn't a producer, she didn't see him as a producer expert. And so that's kind of why she nicked the producer argument for Alec Baldwin. But I mean, honestly, I don't think the producer thing really mattered anyways. I think him as an actor was more important because, you know, as an actor, you still got to follow safety guidelines, right? As an actor, people still saw him as the boss, I think, because he was a lead actor and he's an actor that everyone knew who the fuck he was. Does producer kind of outrank the gun person or no? So for the armorer, it's like armorer and then technically on the hierarchy, the prop master, but it seems like armor and prop master working side by side, and it seems like they were kind of like equals. Above them, I think is oh gosh, what was the hierarchy again? It was like armorer, prop master. I think Gabriel Pickle was above them. Was it the line producer? There might have been one more person in between those two. But I mean, I think producer just sounds powerful, but I don't know what the exact hierarchy is. Hi, Wayne. How's it going? You know, if the gun shoots blanks, that you should never point a gun at someone. That's what I was saying. I was like, you know, maybe they can get Alec Baldwin for not kind of following the directions, because it seems like the shot that they were doing, and I think the state did a really good job at describing this. She said it was supposed to be a block shot, meaning you want to kind of have like the fine details of how that gun is pulled out of the holster. Not necessarily shooting the scene, where it's like you pull the gun out and then you cock it, shoot it, whatever, right? It seems like they just wanted to make sure they got the shot of him pulling it out. Now, it seems like it wasn't discussed that, hey, Alec, we want you to put your hand, you know, your finger on the trigger, or we want you to cock the gun. It seems like that part right there wasn't discussed, but I think Alec Baldwin was probably doing that because he was kind of like in the acting role, right? He was in the acting mindset. So he might have, instead of like, you know, being told directly what to do with the gun, he kind of wanted to flare it up a little bit. So that's the part where I'm kind of like iffy about, I guess. Because I feel like, you know, if you are going to handle a gun on the set, everyone should know what the expectations are, right? What is the actor going to do with the gun? Which way is he going to be pointing? What's inside the gun, right? Are we going to cock the gun? Are we going to put the finger on the trigger? I feel like that should be announced to everyone, and everyone should know what's going on with that. But I don't know. Maybe on movie sets, maybe that doesn't really happen. Maybe actors just kind of like are in that actor mindset, and they're so immersed into the role that, you know, maybe they kind of just play it up a little bit. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. But yeah. If the actors check the gun after armor, they say the actor messes with the gun, loses the situation. Because I think that like if I was the armorer, I would not want the actor to fuck with my gun also. So if I was an armorer, I know what I'm doing. I check the gun, and the actor took it and manipulated it further. I'd be like, whoa, what are you doing? I already checked it. You know, I think it'll be good practice to actor and armorer check the gun together, but let the armor handle it and manipulate it and stuff like that, you know? Don't let the actor just take the gun. Because I think I heard there was an actor that did his own gun check, maybe because he didn't trust Hannah, or maybe because it's something that he just does normally, where he took the gun from Hannah and then he shot it into the ground like 6 times to make sure that it was good. So I've worked on sets before. Hi, Nikki B. How are you doing today? Actors are explicitly told to check the gun, even if they saw the armor check it in front of their faces. Prop gun 101. But how does the actor check the gun? Is it kind of like what I explained, where, you know, you would take the gun and you would shoot it 6 times into the ground, or would you open it up and double check and like shake the rounds itself? Armors would not be offended. Oh yeah, I want to know about the offended thing. So I think who said that? Was it the state? I think the state said that the reason why Alec Baldwin didn't want to check the gun is because he didn't want to offend the armorer. And I'm like, well, was that written in an email or something? Did Baldwin say that in her interview? Where did we hear that? Or are those witness statements? So I want to know, because that never really popped up before. I never heard of that. He said he didn't pull the trigger. No, liar, liar. Yeah, that's the reason why they are going in on the guy who made the gun, the manufacturer from Pieta. The reason why we're going to have gun experts up there, because I think Alec Baldwin said that he didn't pull the trigger, or maybe it was manipulated in some way. Maybe it malfunctioned. So that was one of the things that the defense brought up. And that's the reason why the state has all these experts, because they're going to, what I'm looking for, rebuff that? Rebuff? Yeah, maybe. Dismiss, repulse, rejection, rebuff. I feel like whoever bought the real bullet might have some blame. No. Yeah. I mean, she's already doing 18 months. 18 months. I don't know if I got him or not. I don't think I got him. I swung in his direction and he starts spiraling in the air. So I don't know if I maybe got his wing and zapped some of it. But he comes back. Dead. Who's the monotone Dr. YouTube guy? He has the best synopsis, but he's so boring. What? Who? The YouTube? Does he do true crime stuff? Haven't already established that Hannah's responsible for the real bullet. Yeah. Yep. I mean, I know during Hannah's trial there was contention on whether or not it was Seth Kenny who provided the real bullet or if it was Hannah. But, I mean, it seems like it was Hannah. This is just your boring opinion. They check the barrel, never point it, and never keep their finger on the trigger. Yeah, because I feel like, if you're going to have a gun on the set, everyone needs to know exactly how that gun is going to be handled by the actor. Why charge Baldwin? Hi, She-Bro. How are you doing today? Don't come in here. There's a fly in here. Why charge Baldwin? Like I said, I think it's just because New Mexico, I just think that, they don't want people to think that we don't go after famous people. We don't go after actors. Baldwin was the one who fired the gun. The bullet came out from the gun that he was using. So I think they're going after him, maybe to set an example. And then whether or not he gets charged, we'll see. Because I think I don't know. To me, it does seem like an overreach to go after him for manslaughter. The negligence I could see possibly. Dr. Todd Grad. I love Dr. Todd Grad. Him and his funny dad jokes. Because I think it seems like, he was negligent in how he handled the gun. But I don't know. We'll see on the manslaughter. We will see. Carrie Morrissey, hello. Hey, Dragon. How are you doing today? How's it going? Like, I was completely on board with the armorer being charged with manslaughter. 18 months, I think, was too little. But her, for sure. Him, I'm like, we'll see. Yeah, like the safety meetings and all that stuff. I want to hear more about that. Opening statements for the state. She briefly mentioned that, saying that they were supposed to have a safety meeting, but instead they had shots of him firing the gun. Tell Cheryl to get the fly. He's scared of flies. I don't know. He starts shaking when the flies are near him. I got so many dad jokes. Baldwin trying so hard to resist. Do it. Do the dad jokes. If you're negligent driving a car and kill someone, it's manslaughter. Your dog chases flies. Cheryl doesn't mind eating bees, but when it comes to flies, he won't fuck with them. Have you ever heard a toy called Bug Assault? It's changed my life. No, I have not. Oh, you mean, I think that's too misty. You mean like the gun that fires, it's like a salt gun, right? It fires, like you load it up with salt and then it kills a fly. It's too messy. You have like salt everywhere. I just have the electric tennis racket thing. If you vacuum once a month, you good? That's good tech. I don't know, it just seems too messy. I've seen it on YouTube before. The tennis rackets that for flies? Yes, that's what I have. The electric tennis racket, solid. Yep. I love it. Or if you don't have one, get a wet rag. Get a rag, wet it up a little bit, squeeze out some excess water, and you can just smack the crap out of them. Manslaughter is not an overcharge at all. You can't make a movie where the actor never puts their finger on the trigger. That's ridiculous. If he went through all the meetings, followed all the rules, behaved like a nun, he could have not known there was a real bullet in the gun or even in the set. Is that a football game? No worries. No flies, no demons. I don't think I've ever killed a fly with my bare hands. The fast flies, no. Mosquitoes and like the small little ones, yes. They're slow. But the big flies, they're too fast. I can't get them. Baldwin's next TV show will be the game show Blankety Blank, OMF. Someone said that he has a TV show, a live reality TV show. I guess it's going to be like the Kardashians on TLC. I don't know, man. Shows on TLC are interesting. Kiki says negligence sounds more realistic, but I think negligence is also far-fetched. I feel like Baldwin talks in his own sounding voice in his head. Even if he checked the gun, would he have known it was a dummy round? I think the protocol, or good protocol, would have been, so they checked the gun with the first AD, right? And then when you go to check the gun with the enactor, I mean, good protocol would probably be to open the gun and maybe have other people who are going to be within that area open the gun up and then taking each of the, the ammo and shaking it for everyone. Because had they shook it, they would realize that some of them had little beads inside and made noise. And maybe the one didn't make a noise. And then from then on, check to see if there's the hole in the back, right? So I feel like that would have been good practice. I'm not really quite sure why it wasn't done here. It seems like Hannah, what she would do is she would take multiple ammos in her hand and then shake it, or shake the box or something. It's like, why would you do that? You should be shaking individually, all of them, just to make sure. But I mean, no one knew that there was going to be a live round on the set, right? Why isn't the armor? Sure it is. They already, she's already had her trial and she's already had a conviction. She's serving 18 months, Iris. Yeah, that's Hannah Reid. And we'll see if she's going to testify in this trial or not. Everyone here knows more about blanks, dummies, and lives than Hannah. I don't know. I think, I don't know. It's weird. Hannah's a weird one. Because you would think that when you're so new to this industry, well, I guess for her, she's always been around it because of her dad. So maybe she was just really cocky. Didn't really take her job seriously. Just seems like maybe just a really laid back person. I don't know. I feel like I would be so paranoid. What? She should have gotten more. Yeah, she's got 18 months. I mean, Baldwin is also facing 18 months as well. You think she should have gotten 5 years minimum? I mean, who knows if she even served the full 18 months, right? Maybe she'll get released. I think 12 months in, they can review to see if she can get out on probation, maybe. I think if I remember that. Dummy rounds have a different color. It would be easy to tell. Yeah, it seems like the checks would have been so simple and easy. I think even when she checked with Dave Halls, I think they checked some of the ammo, not even all of it. It's like, why skip these steps? Why not just do things thoroughly? Are they gonna have an armor certification? I don't know. I mean, it seems like usually when they hire an armorer, it's someone that has extensive background. Someone who, is a gun expert, handles guns, or maybe someone that's in law enforcement or something like that. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately with Hannah, I mean, she got hired because of nepotism, because her dad's been in the industry for so long. And they just assumed that she would just be just as good. Dave Halls, he took a plea deal. Dave Halls took a plea deal for a misdemeanor charge. 6 months probation, I think. 6 months probation, community service, and someone said $500 fine. Hannah already tried to get it released because her modeling career needs her. That's true. Not someone who just got fired from Hot Topic. Hey, I like Hot Topic, okay? Hot Topic was my middle school, high school days. Not quite sure. I'm not sure why we wouldn't hear from the lead detective or the sergeant and whoever other law enforcement that was mentioned. Not quite sure. Rain. Dave Hall took plea deal. 5 months. I thought it was 6 months probation. $500 fine. Community service. Mandatory armed weapon course. You think Dave Hall is retired? Carrie's ready to go. Carrie, we missed you. We were stuck with Lolly for like 8 to 9 weeks. Oh, gosh. You wonder if Adam Baldwin will support Alec. Rumor has it they both had a bit of a family feud over politics, Adam being the complete opposite on the political spectrum. I don't know anything about the Baldwin family. I learned today that Stephen Baldwin is Hailey Bieber's daddy and Justin Bieber's dad-in-law. No, I don't think so. I don't think I don't think the defense was that bad. Okay. He was meandering a little bit in his opening statement, but I think he just, I don't know. I think he just didn't want to give a short opening statement because he thought maybe that would look bad. So he kind of just added a lot of fluff in there that we didn't need. Spencer's? Oh, fuck Spencer's. Spencer's so expensive. I hated Spencer's. I wanted to decorate my room in the cool glow-in-the-dark lava lamps, the electric orb thing that they had. I don't know. Spencer's just so expensive. If you had to set the over-under for guilty, not guilty, what odds would you give? I don't know. Not too sure. I am not too sure.